Greetings again, brethren, and welcome to this presentation. This is one of the few presentations when I'm actually responding to someone directly, which I normally don't do. But what happened is a few weeks ago, a brother of mine sent to me a video by this brother, Brother Devaney Haupt, I think, if I got the pronunciation right. If not, please forgive me. He's based in South Africa and he's an Adventist, and he's been preaching a message. Now, in one of his messages, which I'll put the link in the description below, he talks about, Trinitarians, anti-Trinitarians becoming Trinitarians. A very interesting video, really. That's the one I'm responding to because a brother who believes what I believe sent it to me, and he says, people have been sending that to him and he wanted me to respond to it. He said, okay, fine, I'll take some time to do that. So I'm going to respond to that, but I don't want to respond in any way that could be misconstrued as being adversarial or in any way negative to the brother. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a young man who's trying to do the best as far as he knows. Like all of us, really. So I in many ways, applaud the commitment he has to teaching what he knows to be true, and I wish that every one of us was as enthusiastic as he is in trying to share the truth. However, there are things that I would want to suggest to him today to think about carefully and look again, take another look. And this is the point I make in some of my videos, that one of the challenges we are facing as Adventists in particular and Christians in general is that we're lacking the self-critical evaluation or critical self-evaluation, whichever way you want it, to really sit down and think about, why am I interpreting the Bible this way? For what reason? And are there other possible ways of looking at this subject? Have I considered them, and what can I learn from them? So that we don't stand in a position which is predominantly designed to protect and ring-fence our beliefs, but stand in a position which is willing to objectively evaluate anything that can be shared with us for us to look into. Anything that is of a different opinion is something that we may have not considered before. So that's the view I will take, and I hope it will be appreciable to both the listeners and to Brother D, as I will call him from now on. Now, Brother D, you, in your presentation right at the beginning, and I'm going to make several videos responding to several parts of your video, but at the beginning you say that you distance yourself from the word Trinity because it is not used in the Bible. Now that sounds like a good idea, okay? But there's much more to being, a word, or there's much more to a word than just that it is not used in the Bible. And I say so because this is what I want you to reflect on, if you don't mind. Are there any words that you and I could accept but are not used in the Bible, but we use them and we accept them as part of our Christian Adventist experience? There are plenty of them. Some of them which we even preach on pulpits, and I want to believe that if you preach about the second beast of Revelation 13 and the first beast of Revelation 13, the US and the papacy and things like that, you have used words which you have ascribed to be in the Bible, but those words themselves are not there. For example, the word Seventh-day Adventist Church is not in the Bible. You will not find it there. Okay, but we accept it as God's church. God never identified this church as a Seventh-day Adventist church in that specific phrase, but we accept it. The word papacy is not found anywhere in the Bible, but preachers will tell you that the papacy is there in the Bible. The same thing with the word, with the prophecy. You'll hear people talk about USA in the prophecy. That statement is not found in the Bible, but people would claim that that is in the Bible. And I'm not saying it's wrong to claim that. Neither am I saying it's wrong to say Seventh-day Adventist Church because it's not in the Bible. That's not my point. I think my point is very clear. I'll say it at the end. Pastors, for example, there's no way in the Bible where it is a requirement for pastors to have degrees or any formal education before they can be appointed to shepherd a group of believers. It's not a biblical requirement, but we do it. Okay, and there's no requirement in the Bible whatsoever that tithe must go to the conference hierarchy. There's nothing like that. You will not find it stated anywhere. Okay, neither will you find in the Bible where anybody was commanded to tithe on their salary. It wasn't. It was on increase in the fields. That's where tithing was. Never on the salary. Whether people were getting salaries then or not, I don't know. But the bottom line, it was not there. There's nothing about salary in the Bible as being, something that should be tithed on. But we do all these things and we accept all these words, but they're not found in the Bible anywhere in the way that we describe them. But here's the point. The point is not that a word exists in the Bible or it does not exist in the Bible. The point is the principle, the understanding that is represented by a word is found in the Bible, not the word we use itself. That is because normal reasoning includes abstraction of words. That is to say, it includes putting together some principles to make a certain understanding and giving a name to that understanding. That is the normal process of human reasoning and human understanding and knowledge. So that's the point I would like you to consider. Now, just to dwell on the word Trinity a little bit more. If the Trinity was used only to mean that the Father and His Son and His Spirit are one, okay, I would be a Trinitarian. Because the Bible would not make any sense if the Father and His Son and His Spirit are not one. They're supposed to be one. They're supposed to be in unity. Okay. But the moment we say that they are one God, then I cannot be a Trinitarian. If the Trinity as a word represents a concept that God is made up of persons, that concept does not exist in the Bible. Okay. Now, listen carefully. It's not the word that does not exist in the Bible in this case. It's the concept that is not found in the Bible. So that's why I cannot see it in the Bible, so therefore I cannot accept it. So many believe that the Trinity is, in as much as it is, a representation of the fact that the Father, the Son, and the Spirit are in perfect unity, they believe that that is acceptable, but they will not believe that any theory of a Trinity which includes, forming one God out of three persons. There's nowhere, except in fiction and mythology, that a being or a person is ever formed by putting together multiple beings or persons. That doesn't exist. Nobody has ever been told that such a thing is possible, not by the Bible, nor by the spirit of prophecy. So, again, I'm just emphasizing that the word Trinity itself is not the problem. What it represents is what is the problem. Now, here's another thing I'd like my brother to reflect on. You say that you believe in the Godhead because it is in the Bible. Now, this is the interesting thing, right? And that's what I want you to reflect on. The word Godhead is a meaning. It is in the Bible, but it is in the Bible representing a certain meaning, representing a certain concept, representing a certain understanding. Now, if you go to the SDA Bible commentary, this one is from page 2 and I think page 3 of the other one of volume 7, as you can see on the links at the bottom of your screen there. Okay. The word Godhead is used several times in the Bible, but not too many. I think it's just about 6 times, no, 5 times or 6 times. You can do the checking for yourself in those verses that are in your screen on your screen. Romans 1:20, according to the SDA Bible commentary, they say that in Romans 1:20, there's a word that is theiotes, okay, and that word is translated Godhead. It actually means divine nature, divinity, or godhood. They say this is the only occurrence of theotes in the New Testament. The apostle here, now this is their own interpretation, not the Greek grammar. They're now thinking about what Paul means, so you have to take that with a pinch of salt. The apostle here speaks of the divine essence and the manifestation of the divine attributes, not of the Trinity as such. Compare the word theotes in Colossians 2:9, which properly means Godhead. So they're giving you two words. One is theotes with an I, the other one is theotes, which is found in Colossians 2:9. And they're saying theotes is not referring to the Trinity. So in other words, according to the teaching of the church, of the SDA church, the Trinity and the Godhead are the same thing. You will find it in the fundamental beliefs, the actual second fundamental belief of the SDA church actually says the Trinity, and it goes on to explain that, and that's what they mean by Godhead. So it's the same thing to them. But I know when you dig down to the bottom of it, there's a slight difference between those who say they believe in the Godhead, a three-person Godhead, and those who say they believe in the Trinity. Those who say they believe in the Godhead, they actually believe in tritheism, as I will explain maybe in another video. But let's come to the second one, 2 Peter 1 verse 3. Again, there's the word Godhead, which is the word, there's a word which is translated divine, which is the word theos, okay? It is talking there, according to the SDA Bible commentary, it is referring to his divine power, that is Christ's divine power. Since he is the last person referred to in verse 2, and since he seems to be called God in verse 1, again, those are just their own opinions. But the point I want, which is the fact, is that theos is the word that is translated divine in 2 Peter 1 verse 3. And not only there, but in verse 4 of the same chapter, and also in Acts 17:29, where it is rendered Godhead. So here's the thing. Both the word theotes and the word theos are translated as Godhead in the KJV. Both of them. Okay? Now, in verse 4, that's what we've just talked about. That is 2 Peter 1 verse 4. It talks about the same. Now, Colossians 2 verse 9 then says, in him dwelleth, see chapter 1 verse 19, which is Colossians chapter 1 verse 19. Within Christ dwells the sum of the nature and attributes of God. Again, that same point. The word Godhead is associated with the nature and attributes of God. It is not God itself. It does not mean God. All the offices and power of deity reside continually in him. All the fullness of God is revealed in Christ. He is revealed in Christ. Now, Godhead, that is theotes, or deity, the nature of God. Compare theotes, the nature of God, in Romans 1:20. And now they give their own opinion. A concept of persons within a person. The word theotes does not mean anything like that. It just means the nature of God. So here, let me go to the next slide and just show you an analysis of what we've just seen there in a more consolidated format. Now, the thing that we are playing with here is the Greek suffix tes. Now, the statement from the SDA Bible commentary, which says the concept of persons within a person could give some comfort, and I think it would have given me some comfort if it was not their own interpretation. If that was what the word meant in Greek, then it would have given us some comfort. But if we research further, that's not what we find. We see a word and its meaning, and then we see the suffix added, and we see the new word and its meaning. The two words we're dealing with is theos and theos. The one with an I, the first one with an I, the second one without an I. And theos meaning divine, and theos meaning God, a singular, one God, a single person. Okay? You add a suffix tes to both words, and you end up with theotes, that's the new word, meaning divine nature, divinity, or the state of being divine. Okay? And you add tes to theos, and you also end up with deity, or the state of being God, which the two words essentially mean the same thing. So I want to make a point here that, at least as I reflect on this and as I ask Brother D to reflect on it, when you make a lexical argument, when you make an argument based on Greek grammar or on the Greek meaning of words, it must not at the same time be a theological argument, because a theological argument is not a fact, it's how you perceive, how you interpret. But the fact of it is that according to the Greek words that were used, theotes, and theotes, according to those words, there is nothing in them that says anything about a few persons making up one person. There's nothing like that. So let's stick to the words as they are in their meanings, as they are given in the Bible, not to add our doctrines to those words. Okay. Now, so what is the origin of the word Godhead? Now, if we go back to the SDA Bible commentary, it gives you an impression that the word Godhood and the word Godhead actually have different meanings. One in Romans 1:20, which they said, theos and theotes, they mean Godhood, and then in Colossians 2:9 they say this one now means properly Godhead, that is theotes. But that's not true. That's not true. I would reflect on this very carefully. Look at the evidence again. The question, is the suffix wood related to the suffix head? And what does it mean? What do these two suffixes mean? HOOD and HEAD when they are used in the English sense. Okay. In the Greek sense, there's only one suffix, TES. But when they're used in the English sense, does wood and head, do they mean different things? If I say Godhood or if I say Godhead, does that mean I'm talking about two different things? Now, here is some evidence for you. You can consider it for yourself from various sources. The first one is from Bible study tools. Listen to what they say. They say the word Godhead is a simple duplet of the less frequently occurring Godhood. Both forms stand side by side in the Ankh Real or something like that, about 225 AD, and both have survived until today, though not equally common in common use. Okay, not in equal common use. Okay, so these two words, if you went back to 1225, you'd find them in one writing, both of them existing and meaning the same thing. That's what duplet means. It means the exact copies of each other. But why is it so? The next source, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, 1828, explains the history and etymology of the word Godhead. It says in Middle English, it was Godhead with an HED, not without an A. That is God plus the suffix head, which then became hood, which is akin to the Middle English hod, HOD, and also HOOD. So we have here a development of this suffix on Godhead from Godhead with an HED to Godhood with an HOOD or HOD. This is what it is saying. Another source again, we call the Etymology Dictionary. It says, again going back to 1200, around 1200 AD, it says Godhead is from God, right? Plus in Middle English it had an HED, so it was Godhead with an HEDE, okay? That is cognate with HOOD, okay? And in German, that is height, HIET. So they're giving you the information of how this word is developed, and there's nothing in them to indicate that Godhood and Godhead have different meanings. They have got exact same meaning. It's exactly the same as it is proved again by other words other than Godhead and Godhood. For example, maidenhood, maidenhead is exactly the same word. They are using the same suffix. And as you can use the suffix wood in any other word or any other noun to which you add the suffix wood, the meaning is modified in the same way. It means the nature of being that which you're talking about. So they go on to say that in Old English there used to be God had with an AD Again, that's the history of the word Godhead. So it came from God had or God head with an ed with an hed to Godhood with od or hwod, and then to Godhead as we know it today and as we used it, because that's the duplet that has survived to this day. So the suffix hood, which is now commonly heard, has got that agentivity, or in other words, the meaning of an essence of the thing that is referring to, just as much as the suffix tes in theotes in Greek or theotes in Greek also have the same meaning. They mean the essence of what God is, which is God's nature or his divine nature. None of those words has anything to do with making Godhead out of three persons. None of them. Okay, that's the most important point I'm trying to make here. None of them involves making God out of any number of persons. It is simply talking about the divine nature. So I want to continue with this a little bit and just look at the implication of what we've just seen. What we've seen and what we now know is that the word Godhead simply means divine nature, divinity, deity, or, you know, the godhood, the nature of being God. Okay, the essence of God. That's what it means. But listen to these words from a guy called Glenn Parfitt. He writes a book, a very big book, which is considered by Trinitarians to be a reference book with a lot of arguments which I find interesting. I'll do a video to comment on that book maybe later. But listen to what he says, just agreeing with what I've just finished talking about. He writes, "It is true that Trinitarian writers have given the word Godhead a more specialized meaning than is specified in the KJV, to mean the combined and united deity of Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. For this reason, perhaps many modern translations have deity instead of Godhead in the above three verses." Glenn Parfitt, The Trinity, What God Has Revealed. Now, think about this for a moment. Let's have a bit of critical self-evaluation. What this brother is saying is that Trinitarian writers have given themselves the authority to take a word from the Bible and give it what he calls a specialized meaning, which means it's a meaning that is special to them, not in the Bible. He makes it clear that this is not what it is in the KJV. The writers have made it their own prerogative, their own privilege. I don't know who gave them, but they did. They made their own choice to choose a word from the Bible and give it a specialized meaning. That meaning which is not found in the KJV. Very clear. It confirms exactly what I've just been talking about. And it's not the only one. I've talked to to another Trinitarian writer who is authored some books. Who has authored some books that you find in Adventist literature, and he says exactly the same thing. I can give you the quote, except that it was a private conversation. But he says the same thing. We've taken the word Godhead and tried to make it mean what the doctrine requires. But that's not what it says in the KJV. Not just in the KJV, in the Greek, it doesn't mean that. If you go to the original lexicon in Greek words, neither does it mean that in original English itself. It doesn't mean that. In the KJV, it doesn't mean that at all. It means only divine nature and so forth. But now it has been used to unite persons. It has been used to unite persons, a thing which it never was supposed to do. So I have questions. Who said biblical meanings are not special enough and must be specialized by Trinitarian writers to suit the doctrine? Who gives that authority to do that? Because remember, just let's think about this a little bit. Adventists, and I'm not saying they're wrong at doing that, but Adventists continually berate the Roman Catholic Church and the papacy for trying to change some things in the Bible. They say that specifically pertaining to the Sabbath, and also in terms of the papacy's claim that they as you find in some of the quotes, that they are above God and they can actually make changes to the Bible. And not just them, the Jehovah's Witness, they make some changes to the Bible. And there's so many people who have made some changes to the Bible, and we all don't agree with it. You cannot go back to the, well, you can translate your own Bible from the original Greek and Hebrew and translate it in your own way. For example, the Clear Word, which is an Adventist Bible, which is a translation which is, I'd call it the author's, what is it called? The author's prerogative to say whatever he wants to say according to what he understands as to, what the Greek is saying. Okay. So does, any other translation you can find out there. But if someone was to go back to say that in the original Greek this word no longer means that, or in the original Hebrew this word no longer means that, and changes it to mean something else, we would not agree. Similarly, Adventists don't agree that anyone has a right to change the meaning of the word Sabbath from being, the seventh day to the first day of the week, as it's been done and is believed by many Christians, because they say you cannot give the Sabbath a specialized meaning to refer to the Lord's resurrection, which meaning it was never given in the Bible. So my problem then becomes, and this is what I want my brother to reflect on, how is it that we can ask, we cannot accept that the word Sabbath be given a specialized meaning, which transforms it from being referring to the seventh day to refer to the first day, but we are able to accept the specialized meaning which changes the word divine nature into a unit of persons or a unit of deities, which thing it never referred to. By whose authority do we do that? Second question, why is it that there's not a word with a special meaning already in the Bible for the doctrine, if the doctrine is biblical? So if your understanding of the Godhead as being something that is made up of persons, if that meaning is already there in the Bible, how come there's no word for it? Why can you not go where that concept is stated and find a word for it in that verse or in that statement? It's because it doesn't exist. Why do these writers sometimes spend so much time using the lexicon to find biblical meanings of words if they have the license to modify meanings anyway? I mean, think about it. You will find in many of the theological debates that go around, when it suits them, some theologians and biblical writers and biblical students will go into the Greek and they start telling you this Greek word means that, parakletos means that, parousia means that. Why should we do that if you have the license to change the meaning anyway? Because the meaning, if there's no fidelity to the original meaning of a word in the Bible, then why should we even consider it important to do so? Or are we just looking for these words so that we can change them and give them our special meanings which are separate from their original meanings? My fourth question, is it still sola scriptura to change the biblical meanings to suit doctrines? Or should we be changing doctrines to suit biblical meanings? Okay, is that what sola scriptura looks like? That words that are found in the Bible, then when are taken out of the Bible, some writers then have the make their own choice to change their meanings and give that new meaning of their own. If you have given your own new meaning, then what happens to the original meaning that is in the Bible? If this special meaning was not revealed in the Bible and was given by the writers of doctrine, how is that a revelation of God's truth? Has God spoken a new message through these Trinitarian writers so they can take some words and change them? You see the problem. The problem is that we create some tradition in the exact same way that we accuse the Roman Catholic of doing exactly the same way. We create our own traditions and we take them to be, sacrosanct, that they should not be questioned. If it is our case, it's okay for us to do it, but if it's the Roman Catholics, it's not right for them to do it. I don't understand this reasoning. I think this is, frankly, deceptive. So that's what I would reflect on hearing that somebody says they believe in the word Godhead. My point here, and this is not just to those who believe in the three-headed or three-person Godhead, But to anybody who uses the word Godhead, do you use the word Godhead as according to the meaning that it was given in the Bible? When you say I believe in the Godhead, what Godhead? Because I believe in the Godhead, divine nature. That's what I believe in. I believe there's divine nature which comes from the Father. Because that's what it says. 1 Timothy 6:16, I think, if I remember well. Okay, next slide, last slide. So here's what I want you to reflect on, my brother, as the last thing. Because I know you're going to say that, at least some are going to say that, but the word Godhead was used by Ellen White. But here's the problem. Since we have unquestionably established that the biblical definition of the word Godhead has nothing to do with three persons in it, it is never used in the sense of combining three persons. Not at all. It is used in terms of expressing the essence of God, the nature of God, the divinity of God, the deity of God. Which of these two definitions, the Trinitarian writers' new specialized definition or the original Greek and English grammar definition of the word, do you think Ellen White would use? Right? Fair question, right? Which one of these two would Ellen White use? Would Ellen White prefer to use the new Trinitarian writers' definition, which has been developed lately through tradition, or would she go for the original meaning as given in the Bible? In other words, how much fidelity does Ellen White have? How much trust does Ellen White have in the original meaning of words in the Bible? Here's what she says. Her own writings, letter 90, 1906. She says, in my books, the truth is stated, barricaded by a thus says the Lord. So from this statement, do you think she would take a thus says the Trinitarian writers? Well, I don't think so. I don't think so. I think she would take what the Bible says about the word Godhead and what it means, what it meant to her as an English person speaking English as the native language and expressing a word as it was understood in the Middle English times as being Godhood. So here is a challenge for you and many other brethren who are going to listen to this. Here's a challenge. What if you took the original meaning of the word Godhead and slotted it into those many variety of quotes from Ellen White that use the word Godhead in them? Okay? Quotes like three persons of the Godhead would, if it sounded three persons of divinity or three persons of divine nature or deity, or the third person of divinity or the third person of divine nature, how would that sound? Would that still retain the essence, the Trinitarian writers' essence of thinking about three persons made up, somehow cobbled into that, essence? I don't think so. I think there's no need to combine persons in order for you to use the word Godhead. It does not require that. The Trinitarian writers require that word to have that meaning, but not on its own. And lastly, how different are we from the Catholics if we use our tradition to change the meaning of words, if the Catholics also changed from Sabbath to Sunday? The interesting thing is that for the Catholics, at least they say that the Pope had the authority to change from the seventh day to the first day of the week. In the case of our, doctrine, this Adventist, it's only Trinitarian writers with the authority to do so, not even collectively, in agreement with anyone else. Just some guys who decide to do that, and we all bought it. So I cannot see how one who claims to be, honoring and respecting biblical definitions to an extent that he rejects the word Trinity because it is not found in the Bible, would go ahead and take a definition of the meaning, a definition and meaning of the word Godhead, which does not exist in the Bible, but which exists only in Trinitarian writers' writings and books. I don't see how that can be. I think I would seriously reflect on that and maybe consider whether what we've tried to convince each other about the word Godhead is actually true and what God has revealed and what sola scriptura is. Thank you so much for listening. This is the end of my presentation As always, I would love to communicate with anyone on this subject. At the beginning of this video, there is our email and our website, which I'll also put in the description below. If you choose to, and if you'd want to discuss objectively and without emotional attachment in a cordial and respectful manner, please go ahead and write to us. We'll be happy to communicate with you. Thank you so much, and may God bless you all.